All right, this is Honors Algebra 2 Pre-Calculus. We are doing section 5.5 in Algebra 2. This is our third video on the quadratic formula, but we're specifically focusing on programming stuff in your calculator in this video. So in general, when you're doing programs in your calculator, some basics. So here's the first thing we're going to cover. First thing is that, see this PRGM, that's the program button in your calculator. That's where pretty much everything you're going to want is found, right? So let's press program. Now you'll notice I don't have any programs in here. That's because I intentionally cleared them out. So if you want to use an existing program, you're going to use the X, right? Like execute, right? And if you want to edit one that you currently have, you're going to use edit. And if you want to make a new program, you're going to go to new. So here we want a new program. So I'm going to go to new, right? And then I'm going to name my program. Please name your program what you're actually doing, as opposed to naming it some random funny thing, because that's just going to confuse you later. So for quadratic formula, you're either going to call it quad, right? And you'll notice it's already alpha locked, so I can just spell out quad, or you're going to call it quadrat. It won't let you call it quadratic. The max number of letters you can fit is quadrat, I believe. So I'm going to go ahead and type in quad because that seems easier. And sure, you could pick something, you could do quadrat if you want. I think I usually use quadrat. So quadrat. Cool. I think you can't go any farther. Or you can do quadrati maybe. I don't think you can go much farther than that. Yeah, so you can go to quadrati, which seems weird, so I'm just going to call it quadrat. Okay, then I hit enter. Now, what you want to do is you want to make sure that each line in your program starts with this colon, right? So the first thing I'm going to do is I want my program to clear the home screen so that whatever else is on my screen disappears when I run my program. So now when I press the program button, that PRGM, you're going to see a different menu than you saw the first time. So this is the menu of terms that you can use when you're programming, right? So I'm going to want clear home, right? So if I go, so if you go down, you'll see that there's a bunch of different options, like clear home's not in my first control menu, right? So execute is if you want to execute a program, like another program within your program. We're not doing that here. Here what we want is clear home, which is in the input output. That's what IO is, right? We're going to clear home. And then I want to hit enter because I want to go to the next line for my program, right? So when you write a program, here are the basics of how programs work. So let's pause for a second, talk about the basics, right? So what we're going to want to do is we're going to prompt for the stuff that we know. So let's think about the quadratic formula for a sec, okay? So in the quadratic formula, we know A, B, and C. So for the quadratic formula, right, for quadrat, we know A, B, and C. And what we want is we want X. But what we're going to ask it to display is negative B in parentheses, because it's all going to be over, minus the square root of parentheses B squared minus 4AC. Close the root, close the top, divide. Oh, I'm out of room. Hold on. Give me a sec. I need more room. All right. So what we want this to give us is the X values, right? That's what we want it to display. But we're not going to say display X. What we're going to say display is negative B plus, and we'll talk about the plus or minus in a sec, the square root of B squared minus 4AC. Close the root, close the numerator, divided by, and the denominator also has to be in parentheses. So I'm going to do this twice because there is no plus or minus button on your calculator. So I'm going to have to display these things twice. All right, so let's walk through this. So when I go ahead and do it on my calculator, right, on my calculator, I'm going to go to program. I want to find prompt, which is an input output. So I'm going to pick 2. And then I want to prompt for A, B, and C. So I'm going to do alpha A, comma, which is the separate button directly above the of the 7, rather. Then I want B, so I'm going to do alpha B, comma, and I'm going to do alpha C. Those are the things I want to prompt. And then I'm going to hit enter because, again, I need that colon to start my line, right? Now I'm going to go back to program, and I'm going to go to input output, and I'm going to pick display, which is 3. Now what I want to display is this exact thing I typed here. So I want to display negative alpha B, right, plus square root of alpha B squared minus 4 alpha A, alpha C, close the parentheses for the root, close the parentheses for the numerator, divided by, and these are the parentheses everyone forgets. You also need parentheses around your 2A, because otherwise it's only going to divide by 2. Now you can't do second enter here, so you just have to gut it out and type it a second time with the minus. So you're going to program input output, you're going to pick 3. Notice I had to start a separate line here, right? So I'm going to get negative, right, alpha b minus this time, square root b squared minus 4ac, close the root, close the numerator, divided by, and then in parentheses, 2 alpha a. All right, so now that's fine, and that program's going to work. Now, when I want to get out, I have to quit out, because if you hit clear, which is how a lot of us accidentally get out of things, you're going to clear this whole line and be really mad at yourself because you just typed this entire line. So I'm going to quit out, and I'm going to show you an option about how you can change this in a sec. Whenever you write a program, you need to have a test case, and that's really important, okay? So, when I write a program, I need a test case. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick a test case that I already know the answer to. So I'm going to pick 2x minus 3 times x minus 1. Now I know, because this is factored, right, I made a test case, I know that the answers should be 3/2, right, because so I know the answer should be x equals 3/2 and x equals 1. If I FOIL this, I get 2x squared minus 2x minus 3x plus 3, so I get 2x squared minus 5x plus 3, meaning if I input an a of 2 in my program, a b of negative 5 in my program, and a c of 3 in my program, then I should get these two answers back if my program is working correctly, right? Now, why did I pick one that has a not equal to 1? So I chose one where a is not 1. The reason I did that is if you go back to my program for a sec, if we go over to edit, and you look at this, see how that 2a has to be in parentheses? If a were 1, it would not catch the mistake, right? If a were 1 and I forgot the parentheses, I wouldn't notice my error. And then later, when a is not 1, I would have a problem because my program wouldn't work. Okay, so I'm going to go to Program. Now I want to execute Quadrat. I'm going to hit Enter, and look, it's going to prompt me for A. So I hit 2, Enter. B, so I hit negative 5, Enter. And C, so I hit 3, Enter. And my answer should come out as 3/2, which is 1.5, and 1, which it does. Now, if you want this to come out as a fraction, there's an option. You can go back to your program. You can go to Edit, and you can add something at the back of each step, okay? So at the back of each step, you could add a math frac, right? And you could add a math frac. Now, if we quit out of this and I hit Enter again, I hit my A, which is 2, my B, which is negative 5, and my C, which is 3. And sure enough, it gives my answer as a fraction, okay? And that's absolutely fine. So basically, you can write this kind of program for anything, right? I picked the quadratic formula because it's really useful. But if you were doing a lab in science class where you had to use the same formula over and over and over again, right? It would be really worthwhile for you to solve that formula for your unknown that you need, and then just prompt for the values that you got in your lab, right? Like if you're collecting, I don't know, volume and temperature and something else, right? Like maybe you're using the ideal gas law and you're collecting some of the PV equals nRT stuff. And if you're trying to find these values, right, maybe you're solving for pressure and then you're inputting all of the others. Well, if you know you're going to have to do that over the course of an entire lab where you're taking measurement after measurement, it's worthwhile to make a program that gives you the pressure of the ideal gas law so that you can just enter, enter, enter. And sure, you invest maybe 3 to 4 minutes up front writing the program, but then while everyone else is typing, you're just hitting enter, 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 and you're done really fast. So the advantage to having a program in your calculator, especially in like a science lab situation where you're plugging in data to evaluate from your lab, is that sure, you're doing a little more work on the upfront, but then you're able to use the program to do your work a lot faster on the back end. And again, you can do this for pretty much anything, but that is how you write the quadratic formula on your calculator.